Did it work? Just do it to the computer.
Oh, it's recording. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. We are Tatiana Davis and CJ Miller tuning in from rainy Virginia. Thank God it's not snowing. And we have such a special treat for you today. We have Jennifer Gibbons from Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken. And Jennifer is a great friend of ours, and she is really successful in this company. And the way to success in this company is to help a lot of people, and she's doing that daily, every single day. She's a retired nurse, she's a mom, she's a wife to CJ's bud, the wild man Nate Gibbons. She was brand partner of the year in 2019 for North America. That is a big deal. Again, you know, you get to the top by helping a lot of people, and just on the personal level, she's one of my favorite humans on the planet. Yes, I did make notes because I don't want to miss anything. Okay. She's a great listener, and if you've ever or whenever you get a chance to meet her in person, she's just an awesome human with an amazing ability to kind of answer your questions, whether it's about your life or about your business, in a very special way. And I know that compliments make her uncomfortable. That is because how humble she is, right? So we're going to shower you with love today and the compliments, and you know, you're very humble. And anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, only thing that I would like to add, honestly, it's so funny, and I'm going to share this with you, Jen. Every single time before Tatiana and I are supposed to do our thing, presentations, training, whatever, she's like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to say anything. I don't know what to say. You're going to take it. You're going to start. You're going to roll with it. And every single time, there she goes. Every single time, there she goes. She takes it over. But I do want to echo those sentiments of being a great listener. Jen, I will never forget the chance that you and I had to talk years ago at it was a Lexus and Above event in Richmond, Virginia. And I had asked you a question during a break in the session. And after the event was over, you took the time to reach out to me and to make sure that that question had got answered, which I thought was really, really cool that you took the time to do that. And then we had a good talk afterwards. And it was a game changer for me, because it reminded me of how we're supposed to build a team, how we're supposed to do things with network marketing. And so I know you've been leading that, and I always say leading with love, and it's the true epitome of loving, caring, sharing brand partners. So it's pretty cool to get to know you guys. It really is.
She's a giver.
Yeah, I hope I don't let anybody down today.
Gibbons giver. So thank you so much for giving your time. So here's how today's going to go. This is not our typical training. So this is your opportunity to fire away with questions. So you can ask your question either by unmuting yourself or by typing your question in the chat if you're super shy. So CJ will kick it off just to give everybody a minute to get their thoughts together. And then if you do have a question, either unmute yourself or type it in the chat, and I'll be monitoring the chat.
And also, just to let you guys know, like, why, like, where did this come from, right? I was supposed to be there today in person. Obviously, that got a little shaken up. So one of my favorite things at the end of every regional is to do a Q&A, because I feel like you always get the information and you get it from everyone every week, but then it's always like you have all these questions and you never got to ask them. Yep. So that's why I was like, well, maybe we should just do a Q&A, because you got to go to a regional. Right. Even though I have no idea where we are, but what month it is. Some Saturday you went to that regional. So hopefully some of you maybe have gathered some questions since then that we can help you get answered. So that's how this happened.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm going to start with just a couple of, easy ones, just to kind of get things going. And then hopefully some people will kind of raise their hand and ask some questions. So first things first, what is your favorite product?
Oh. So that's like saying what's your favorite kid. I mean, I can't say that. It would feel like that. So I have an obsession with night cream and Illuma Boost. We're going on a skin level. Illuma Boost is my favorite secret ever. I feel like it's very underutilized. And I use it. I'm very odd, just so everyone, I'll put that out there. Okay. I'm like OCD. I'm very compulsive. I do things a certain way, but I don't necessarily know why. So in the mornings, I put Illuma Boost directly on my skin, and then I put sunscreen after. And then at night, I mix it in my night cream. Don't ask me why. But just a little fun fact in case you didn't know about it. Also mixes very well with eye serum. If you're going to put it over top of makeup, and then it doesn't make it all weird and white or whatever, because I don't know, people are really good at that. I was not good at that. So those are probably my two favorite skincare. Firm, I pray, never leaves my life. But that one's very superficial, so I feel guilty saying that a little bit. And then sleep chews. I don't want to know my life without those either, and really my whole family's life without those. So I would say those are probably my favorites if I had to choose. But I do use every single one. So that's not like a front. I really do use every single product. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, and so do we, as a matter of fact. And I definitely use all the products, and my go-to is the day cream and the Illuma Boost mixed in together. I absolutely love that.
His favorite product is Firm too.
Yeah, so
not everyone will admit it.
He literally uses every single product.
I do. So here's the thing that I've been always curious, like why did you get started with Neora?
So it really wasn't as thought out as one would hope or think. My friend, so Erin Hall was someone that, she was my sister-in-law's sister. Okay, you don't have to figure that out, but that's how I knew her. I'd also known her from like her husband and I went to high school together, just random. My husband coached her son in baseball before. Like it was just kind of like we knew each other. We were friendly. We weren't like best friends, but we were friends. And I stalked her on Facebook when she started posting. I was actually very interested in the product. I had really, really deep forehead lines in my forehead, obviously, that, and I did it, that like my only option I knew was to inject something in them, which I was actually all for, but I was like forever pregnant or nursing, forever. And I worked for a physician who would have done it too. And he was like, I cannot do that. You're nursing a baby. I'm like, God. So I ended up finally, after 2 months of stalking her, giving in and buying the product. And I met her in a Wendy's parking lot. Like it was like a straight up, give it to me before my husband changes his mind and tells me I can't have it, which is so funny. And so 4 days after using the product, I was like, I really like this stuff. Like I felt like there was something special about it. It's not like I looked like a different person in 4 days, but I could just tell. And then she made a post about paying her son's school tuition with her earnings from this. And then it like clicked in my head. I was like, oh, there's a business. Like I never even thought about that, which is a really big lesson to all of you, that you should always share the business with people, because I'm also a really big money saver. That's just, I like to figure out a deal. I mean, legitimately, if I went to Chick-fil-A, which now that I just said that out loud, I'm hungry. But if I went to Chick-fil-A and I was figuring out how many chicken nuggets we needed for our family, I would figure out the cheapest way to get them. Like that, I used to divide out how much diapers cost to figure out which pack I was buying. And not because I was poor, because that's how my brain works. I told you all it was weird. So if she had told me the pack up front, I wouldn't have like said, give it to me now. I'm not that kind of person, but I would have thought about it, and I would have ended up doing the pack first, because the way I did it, I bought the night and day cream and then turned around 10 days later and bought the kit. So really I bought an extra product I didn't even need to buy if I would have just bought the kit up front. So I did buy the kit because of the way it worked out in the products. And I thought that was the cheapest way to get them. And I thought, well, worst case scenario, I got them for cheaper than I would have anyways. And then I was hoping that I would earn them for free. And logically I thought, well, if I do that, that's probably like $50 a month. I don't know. That's what I thought.
Right.
So that was my only intention. Now, I have to, this is the other weird part of me that everyone can learn all of a sudden, is I'm very, very much have learned a lot about myself and energy and all the things since I've been in this company. I'd never even heard of the law of attraction, none of those things before. And so looking back, I really think that I basically, for lack of a better way of describing it, prayed for this. without realizing that that's what it was. Because I was very anxious about the future monetarily, very. I couldn't even think about our kids going to college or getting married because I'm like, I don't even have a retirement. How do I think I'm going to help my kids later? So instead of dealing with it, I just pretended like I only lived like today, you know? So I really think that it was a much bigger thing than just some bottle of night cream I saw on Facebook. I think I was actually praying for this much longer than I anticipated.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Absolutely love that. So here's, I'm going to pause. This will be my last question. Then we're going to take some questions, and then I'm going to come back and ask some more questions. But I'm trying to figure out the right way to word this, but what is the thing that right, you're hugely successful with Neora. What is the thing that allows you to continue to push on? What's the thing that drives you to continue building with Neora?
Other people. So, I mean, what we have in our life right now is beyond anything I ever could have actually even imagined. And if I ever read you my original vision statement that I wrote when I hit National Marketing Director for the first time, everyone would probably be like, well, good Lord, you should have dreamed a little bigger. But to me, that was dreaming big, what I wrote in that vision statement. But if I read it to you today, you'd be like, so you wanted a house. Okay. Like, it was what I wrote about more in my vision statement were more of like conceptual things, like seeing my husband, seeing my kids for breakfast. Like those were the types of things that to me are far more valuable to me than tangible things. And so, but the fact of the matter is, as it goes along, you get things too, right? So there's nothing else that we could want for. There's not. And I've said it to my girls once, and I realized it because they were like, why do you still work so hard? Mommy, what else do we have everything. And I said, well, because other mommies don't.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to help other mommies get what mommy did, like that's, so for me still, that is the only thing that drives me to do this, because there's nothing else that I would want. And I don't even need everything I have. Right. So it's not that, it's that I strongly believe in the potential of human beings, just to the depths of my core. And I think that a lot of times the biggest obstacle of that, aside from effort, is belief that someone can do it. And so if I can just be continues to believe someone can do it, and then they start putting in the effort to match it, then I think that can equal success. So to me, that's what still makes me want to do all the things I do. I mean, you guys, I'm not kidding. I stopped counting because I can't, because I'll stress myself out. But I looked at how many parties for the whole month, like ones I've already done, ones that are scheduled through the end of the month. There are 26 parties that I'm doing in the month of. That's me. And how many I would have to do, honestly, if I'm just being bluntly honest, how many I would have to do to still get paid? 0.
Right.
But I'm working harder since the quarantine than I probably have in 4 years because everyone else is wanting to work. And so if they're wanting to work, I want to help. That's just kind of the way it goes for me. So, yeah.
I love that. I love that answer. And, I always say that in every company, every great company, there is always a person, a couple or two who kind of lead into the direction of the company and kind of the heartbeat of the company. And I think you and Nate are doing an absolutely outstanding job in doing that. I really, really do. I'm going to ask one kind of the nitty gritty kind of questions. And that is when you're working, because I feel as though you're hands-on, I mean, all things considered, right? You like to get in there and work with the person and be directly working with them. What does it look like for you to get a new personally sponsored brand partner started?
No different than it looks for any of you. And just so you know, they still do the same things to me that they would do to any of you. They don't answer me. They don't schedule parties. They schedule their parties and cancel. I mean, all the same things. Okay. And so don't think that ever goes away. You don't talk about it as much. And honestly, it still bothers me. So I won't even lie and say that it doesn't bother me. It still bothers me. But I realize now that that's not I can control, right? And so what you have to always remember is what you can control is what your intentions are, number one. Number two, what you've laid out for them initially. And so to me, it's a lot about posture. And it took me a long time to learn this. I am by nature, not anymore, but by nature, I was a very a guilt-stricken human being. I don't even know over what. I would be guilty about feeling guilty. Like it was just who I was. So, and I'm not that person at all anymore, but for a long time, I would feel guilty telling someone to schedule a party. I don't even know why. I don't even know why, but I would. And so I was really timid in my approach, meaning I would be like, well, I mean, they say you should have some parties. And so if you want to do that, you know, that's how I would do it. And I think that's because a lot of times, well, I know it's because we put our own thoughts. We think that they're thinking what we're afraid of, which is not even true. Right. And so, and guess what? They'll tell you if they don't want, I mean, it's not like you're not going to have to read their mind. They'll tell you if you ask questions. So for me, it's shifted in my posture of saying, get out your calendar. And I'm not mean or bossy. I definitely don't agree with ever being bossy or you're someone's boss, because you're not. I don't care what your title says or what you think or how big or small your team is. You're never anyone's boss. They're always in this for themselves, but never by themselves, right? And so when I you know, it starts figuring out why they want to do it. That's very important, you guys, because guess what? The plan doesn't change. The system is the system. The activities they're going to do are going to be the same, but the amount of them will be different depending on their goal, potentially. Also, it's a really good thing to have. So let's say that someone told me they wanted to make $500 this month. And then we schedule their parties, we get everything in action, whatever. They end up canceling both of their parties. It's very easy to be like, well, what's wrong with you, right? But what you have to think is, okay, you remind them of what it was. And so what I say is, okay, what happened? Because when we talked, you told me you wanted to make $500 this month. I'm trying to show you the way to make $500 and I feel like you're resisting. So what is it that's making you resist? Because most of the time it's not that they don't want to do it. When it really comes down to it, 9 times out of 10, it's that they don't think they can. And so then they just don't try, which honestly, I can understand, because that is who I'm, really that person as well sometimes. If I don't think I'm good at it, I just don't do it, which is not a great way of being, but it's the way a lot of people are. So anyways, the why to me, and it doesn't have to be some big grandiose thing, but basically what is your immediate goal right now? What do you want to do right now with this? And then eventually you can try to see their bigger goal. Not everybody knows the bigger goal. I didn't know a bigger goal. If you would have asked me that when I started, I would have been like, what? I don't know. I just like this night cream, you know? But so meeting them where they are for sure, but finding out at least their immediate why so that you can create a plan for them around it. So their why, and then it's, I definitely tell them about the milestones. So I try not to use the verbiage of the company because it's very confusing. I mean, have you ever tried to say a bunch of TPC, PPC? It's confusing to my own brain, and I know what they are. So I just say we have some immediate bonuses for you that we want you to get. You know, we're going to shoot for the $150 bonus. Aim high, miss high. So at the very least, you'll get your product for free. And then I show them what can happen if they enroll 3 people. So I try to keep it on, what I try to explain or have them look at is the TPC level 2, right? But I don't call it that, because that is the oddest thing ever to someone who's never done this before. So it's like, if you can find 3, we want you to get, you know, we're going to shoot for 9 customers for you at least. Always at least, that's the minimum, right? We're going to shoot for at least 9 customers for you. And we're going to see if you can find, do you have 3 friends that you think would want to do this with you, or that you would want to do this with you? Because if we could get them doing this and help them get customers, you could earn XYZ. And so I tell them a specific amount of money, because here's the thing. It's like it's almost like a carrot that you're dangling. And I'm not even a money driven person. Like, money doesn't drive me. That's not my main driver. I mean, but if you said, okay, well, you could do this and make $150, or you could do this and make $700, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I'll do the $700. Like, that's just, because to me, that's just common sense. So, but I think you have to lay it out. Like, you have to tell them, and keep it very simple though. Find 3 friends to do this with you. All of you get customers. You could end up making $700. Earning. You got to say earn, not make.
Yeah, FTC. Yeah.
And you can show them that diagram. But again, I think that's even a little bit confusing when you look at it and you've never done this before. It looks a little overwhelming to me. So if it's just like, you know, so I kind of do that. And then I do category list. I really think though, you have to take everything I say with a grain of salt, right? Take it for a bigger concept, but then make it who you are. Because who you are might be the person who you would rather read off the memory jog for them and help them make a list that way. Who you are would maybe say, who are your top 10 people to do whatever. For me, those things aren't comfortable to me, because when someone read me the memory jogger, I got so caught up on why I didn't know my post office person's name that I couldn't move forward. Like literally, I was so ashamed of myself. and then it goes down a wormhole, and I'm like, do people know their mail carrier's name? Like, and so then I never got the rest of the people. So I do say, who are your top 5 friends that would support you no matter what? Family members, friends, whomever. Who do you think those people are? And we write those people's names down. Then it is, who are your top 10 people, top 5, 10, whatever. Some people can't think of one name, so don't go too big, right? They'll always build on it once they start thinking. But who are the top, 3, 5 people that if it were the perfect world, you would have doing this business with you? And then I go into categories. So okay, we're going to write down, who do you work with right now? Who did you work with at your last job? Who are the people that you know from high school? Clearly you can't do it this fast, but you know what I'm saying? Who are the people from college? Who are the people that you went to elementary school with that you can think of? Who are your family members? And then you can go into the other networks. So parents of this kid's friends, your husband's network, whatever, but you're writing down different categories, because people tend to remember way more people when they do that. Because if you just said right now, think of 10 people you know, I'd be like, oh, I mean, I could, but I don't even know where I'd pull them from. Probably the people I talk to the most, right? But if you really dig and said, well, who are the people that you know from high school? Well, then I could list off 25 people's names, but I wouldn't have thought of those if you just said, tell me 10 people you know, right? So I try to help them do that. And then what I used to do on a typical life back pre-PQ, quarantine, was I would have them set up they would pick 2 in-person party dates and 2 virtual party dates. Zoom is my preference for a lunch. Anyways, 2 in-person, 2 Zoom. Right now, I'm having 2 Zoom, 2 Facebook, because what else am I supposed to do, right? And the intention behind that was to have them for the people that, and I never say, I say, are there some people that you could get together with locally? Instead of saying, let's schedule you a real results party. And they'll be like, what? So it's trying to speak in their language as much as I can. So they'll have to get uncomfortable eventually, but I don't really want them to be uncomfortable the second that we start. So using familiar terms. And so if the people they can get together with locally, they're going to pull them from all those lists that they have and go in I'm going to invite to my in-person party. And theoretically, you can use the same concept with this. Zoom is much more, obviously, it's much more conversational. It's much more committal because you're turning on a camera, you're speaking to people. It's much more like being in someone's home. So I think you can use the same concept for that. The people that you know well enough that you would get together with, those are going to be the people on your Zoom party list. Everyone else, can go into your Facebook party. Or for me, it was everyone else can go into your Zoom party, either people who don't live near you or people that you don't really know well enough that you would ever invite anywhere in that type of setting. And so they pick 4 dates, 2 for each. And I literally do say, it's not like let's think about it, or maybe you should. It's like, okay, get out your calendar. We're going to pick 2 dates for this and 2 dates for that. But every once in a while, people are like, oh, well, I don't think I have any dates. And I would be like, well, okay, well, let me know. And now I'm like, girl, you have an hour. Go find a day where you have an hour, because what you have to remember is, no, you're not responsible for what they do. You can't control their actions, but you are responsible for putting them on the right pathway to get them started and help them earn their money back, at least. And so if you have to have some confidence that the system that we have works. And if you don't have that, that's okay. You'll build it. But you do have to kind of, part of being a leader is people will tell you what they want and pushing them just one little step further. And the reason I like 2 and 2 is simply for a backup date. It doesn't even inevitably mean that you always have 4 parties. It's just that it really helps them when they're inviting to have a backup date ready already in their calendar. And they may find that nobody can come to the first date and everybody comes to the second and they only have 1. That's okay. But it gives them a backup for inviting to parties. Now, the next thing that we talk about after we pick their party dates, we set the goal. We've already done that after their why. We go through the why, we go through the bonuses and the money on the table, basically. We talk about what do you want? So that's their goal for their current goal. Then we make the list, and then we pick the dates, decide who they're inviting to which, and then whichever one is first, that's the one we talk about inviting to. Now, if their party is a week away, and they're not inviting yet, I'm not going to talk about inviting yet, because it's not good, because when the time comes to invite, they're going to forget everything I said anyway. So it kind of just depends. So there are people who were their top 5 friends that are going to support them. I suggest that they send a voice message to, or call, but everyone I've ever been around won't call people. So it's whatever. But just to say, I'm really excited. I started something new. I would love to share it with you. Maybe you can get your money back if you don't like it. It would mean a lot to me to have your support. I'm going to send you some pictures. Tell me what you think. Literally just to get the conversation rolling. They can always invite those people to their party, but a lot of times those are the impulse buyers that will just sign up and try a product to support the person. Now, in that same right, you have to remind people that sometimes their closest friends and family that they think will support them no matter what will be the people who don't, because that can vary between what they think and what you know. So being there for that support part is key. I've never had anyone that will invite people in front of me to their parties, and I actually understand that, because I would never do that either. I would be like, no, please get out of here. I mean, I'm the person who walks around my house when I'm on the phone, because I don't like to just sit in front of someone and talk. So I get that. But what I do whenever they're ready to invite to their party is we go through like a sample way and get someone there, which to me, it doesn't really matter a lot what you say. And you'll hear me say that a lot. And I don't mean it as a discounting thing, but I think there are key parts to everything that you do. And I really do think the rest of it is just details. I don't think it necessarily matters. And so in your invite, it definitely has to be in your voice. It just does. You have to use your voice. Typing an invite is so impersonal, number one. Number two, no one really thinks that much about it because it doesn't seem that serious. I mean, hello, I get text messages about some CBD gummy bears like every day of my life. I don't even know who it comes from, whatever. And it's just like delete. I just don't think about it that way. But when you hear someone's voice and you've heard the statistics on it's more about your tone and your body language and whatever than it is about the words that come out of your mouth. So you have to think about that when you're calling someone, they're hearing, quote unquote, way more of what you're trying to say because they're hearing the tone of your voice. And so in that too, I think you should always say whatever the truth is. So I do not fall in line with tricking people or saying something that's not true just so that you can say something else. I don't think it's necessary. I really think it's unnecessary. And I think it's sets you up in a bad way to potentially break trust when you don't need to break trust. So my point is, I would never say, I don't know. I don't even know. I've heard things before and they make me cringe on the inside. I'm like, why would we lie? You don't have to lie. If you know the answer to a question, don't lie and say you don't know the answer to the question. I don't agree with that. Why? People like to know that you know things. So, and if you didn't know there was a $20 kit with a $20 coupon, I would be like, then I probably don't want to do business with you if you don't even know something that simple. So I think there are plenty of ways to get people on like a 3-way call or whatever, which I'll talk about in a second, or so I can give you an example. But I don't think you have to trick people into coming to your party. And to be blunt, I think you should never do that, because this is a business built on relationship and trust. And honestly, even sales relationships are that. They are people buy things from people they like and trust. And so if you break that early on because you say, oh, I didn't mean it was at 7, it's really at 6, just because they can't come at 7, that's why. Just say, okay, let's do it a different day. Like, I don't think that's necessary to lie. So we go through, kind of some key points, like saying it would mean a lot to you. Unless it doesn't mean a lot to you, then please don't say that. But saying it would mean a lot to you, ending it in a question with something like, does that sound fair? I'm going to tell you what, you say, does that sound fair? It's really hard to say, no, doesn't sound fair at all that you would invite me to something. I mean, it's hard to say no to that question. Instead of saying, do you think you can come? That's a really easy way to say no. But if you say, does that sound fair? Just show up, support me, ask some questions, interact. No obligation or pressure to do anything other than that. Just show up to support me. It would mean so much to me. Does that sound fair? Whatever kind of thing. And then of course you have the backup date. And so we go through that, but here's the thing. Sounds great when I say it. Sounds great to them. And they're like, okay, I got it. And then they go to do it and they're like, and then something happens. And so what I encourage them to do, instead of sitting there with them while they invite everyone, before they do their invites, I go over again, like the key points to say, and then I say, okay, before you invite anyone else, invite me. So they will send me their voice message of their voice text of what they're going to say. so that I can then say, ooh, well, maybe we should add this, or maybe we should take out this, or whatever. And so that is the way that I do it, that I have found to work, instead of sitting there with them while they call. If they'll let you do that, that's fantastic, because then you're definitely there to help them through that process. But I've not found anyone yet who will do that in 6.5 years. So I think that's a good way. And overall, you guys, that's a good way to help people learn. So if someone says, well, I've been talking to so-and-so forever and I can't get them to blah, 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 I'll say, send me the screenshots of your conversations, because I can almost immediately pick up why they haven't gotten any farther in the conversation when I read it. But they don't know yet, right? And so part of you have to think that everyone you're bringing in is the intention of you're developing a leader. Because you, in my opinion, you can't say that someone is or isn't a leader. You don't get to make that decision. Leaders are not, it's not like an achieved thing. It's a peer appointed thing. People want to do what you're doing or behave how you're behaving. And so then suddenly they basically appoint you as a leader. Nobody in any business job has a tag on their desk that says leader, right? That's like a peer appointed thing. So you don't know who's going to be a leader. So you have to act as if everyone can be, right? And you have to really stay in that potential of people. It's easier to get sucked into all the things people don't do, which I promise you will attract you a team of a bunch of people who aren't doing all those things. You have to find the positives and hang on those, and think of the potential of people and act on that versus what they're actually doing. Don't confuse that with me saying someone never returns your phone call, they never talk to you, and you should just keep wasting all your time. I don't mean that at all. I'm just saying that you're acting as if they're going to be a leader. So everything you're doing is to basically don't ever do anything alone, so that you can duplicate yourself and other people, right? So if I'm expecting somebody to just move to the next step with some person, but I have no idea what they've said or done, and they'll be like, well, I sent this and I sent this. Okay, great, but what did you say with it? Because that matters, right? So if you can see those screenshots, and you can easily be like, okay, well, what we need is another exposure. What we need is to get them on the phone. What we need is to invite them to a party. What we need, you can tell from that. And maybe you can't tell, maybe you have to take it to someone else and say, what do we need to do with this, right? But the same thing is true of those invites. So it kind of gives them a way to double check out all the invites. And then that's all I do in the beginning. You have to understand, I have no MLM background. So I operate essentially as a nurse. So I'm always thinking of what would I do? How would I want someone to treat me? What would I want them to say to me? What would I want them to ask of me? And I wouldn't have ever let someone else call my friends. Nope. And my friends would have been like, what is happening, weirdo? Why are you this random person calling me? And so, but for some people, that works, because that would be okay, right? So you have to kind of feel the person out and see what works for them and for you. But overall, the concept is really the most important part of the party, aside from setting the date, is getting people to show up. So inviting them to the party. I don't tell them about the party. Why? Why does it matter? It doesn't matter right now. We have to get people there first. So I do it more in baby steps. And then, before the party, then we're going to talk about how the party goes and what they need to be prepared for. But I'm not going to do that the day I schedule their parties. So that was a really long answer, but
no, that was perfect.
That was great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely great. One thing that I wanted to point out there too is that she mentioned posture, and I think it's so hugely important for all brand partners to just kind of develop that and understand what that looks like. I love what you said about, it is really our responsibility for helping that new person get their money back. It truly is our responsibility. And sometimes you have to kind of gently nudge, if you will, people through the process. And I think the mindset that you have and that you shifted to was, a lot of times we get a new person started, we're so excited because we sponsored someone that we think that event is so important for us. It's so wonderful for us. But in the reality, that event where you just recruited this new person, new brand partner, is so wonderful for them, because now they have you to help them get the things that they want. And it's that shift that you have to make in your mentality and your mindset, because ultimately it's about helping that person win, and you have to lead them in that direction. So many great golden nuggets. Listen, guys, we are recording this, so if you didn't get anything, if you didn't get a chance, I saw all of you with your heads down writing.
Yeah, I talked really fast.
Right.
Sorry.
So no worries, no worries. So you guys we'll make the recording available. Did you find the question?
Yes, we do have a first question in the chat from Pat Hurd from Canada. What is your favorite thing to say to someone to begin a conversation about the business?
Hi. No, I'm kidding. I don't. So, and again, you take everything I say and adapt, right? I don't, that's not me. I'm not going to say something that's just about the business. I have to have a conversation with someone and find out about them. So to me, it offers a solution, but we don't know what solution we're offering if we know nothing about the person, right? Because what we tend to do is talk to them about what we think that what the business was for us, right? So for me, it was extra money. That was like a big thing for me. Well, not everyone needs extra money. So if I come at someone about earning extra money on the side, they might, in their head, they might be like, great, but that's not a solution to my problem. So to me, not knowing anything about someone, and I'm not saying you can't send a cold messages, whatever. I haven't built my business that way. So I will just tell you, I'm not the person to train you on that. I've done it solely through, it's not that I haven't enrolled strangers that were initially strangers, but it became more of a, I shouldn't say like it's not like we're besties, right? But it became a conversational relationship where I knew enough about them to then talk about the business. So, I'm not saying I wouldn't meet someone at Target and get their number and talk to them. I enrolled someone who worked at TJ Maxx. She was my TJ Maxx checker outer one time for my clothes I was buying for a Hawaii trip. So in that way, yes, I started the conversation because she was like, she was very chatty. Honestly, that's how it started. And it was like, oh, I'm going to Hawaii. Oh my gosh, you're going to Hawaii. And I was like, yeah, for free. And it wasn't like I wasn't trying to prospect her. I was just talking. And I was like, cause it's crazy. Right. And I'm like, that came, from a company. And she's like, really, what's the company? An anti-aging and wellness company. And I was like, I'm happy to share more information about it with you if you want to hear more. And she's like, yeah, of course. And so she wrote down her phone number and then we went back and forth. And it was probably honestly 6 weeks before she ever did anything else because it was an exposure process. But by the time that something happened, she was no longer a stranger from TJ, Connie that I knew. And, and I knew why this business was for her. And I knew so for me, it would be like offering someone night cream when they really want it firm. If you don't know what solution you're trying to offer, right? So you wouldn't be like, if you didn't ask any questions, someone might never said yet, they never answered the question that their main issue is cellulite. And you're over here trying to sell your night cream, right? And so you're offering them the wrong solution, therefore it never really works out. So to me, I would rather just talk to them. And people like to talk about themselves. It's really interesting because I don't, but people like to talk about themselves. And if you ask someone about themselves and the whole, you can just go with the whole form, which is the acronym for family, occupation, recreation, motivation. Have I ever said, do you have a family? What is your occupation? Do you do anything recreationally? No, but what happens is something flips in your brain when you become a brand partner and you forget how to speak. I don't know what it is. You no longer can hold a conversation because you're always thinking that there's this thing hanging over your head. And if you think about it like this, you cannot prospect someone and have a normal conversation at the same time. You can't, because you are thinking of the wrong intention, right? What I am thinking when I speak to somebody is, what is their problem? Everybody has one that we can offer a solution for, whether it's just more time freedom, whether it's the social aspect of it that they might enjoy. Maybe it's that they really enjoy giving back and this could create and generate extra income that they could then use to give back more. There's lots of different things besides just money, right? And so if you talk to somebody just a little bit and find out about them, you will learn some of their main triggers. And then maybe you connect with them on social media, or I'm not saying you can't ever say, I have an anti-aging and wellness business that I love. I'd love to share some more information with you if you're open to it. Open, not interested, by the way. No one's when you say interested, it feels like they just committed something. When they say, yes, I'm interested, they think they have to hand you their credit card. They will say, yes, they're open to it, because again, it's sort of like the sound fair thing. Who isn't open to something? Well, most, right? So, that's a good thing to say too. I'm not saying you can't say that, but I'm not going to just walk up to somebody and say, hello, I have an anti-aging and wellness business. Would you like to know more? Right? So I'm finding out a little bit about them. And that's what I do actually at the beginning of a Zoom party as well. I talk to people, and so does the host. I mean, they do a lot of the talking, but my whole thing, yes, I'm having normal conversations, but what I'm trying to do is find out what those people's things are. What is their pain point? What is it that, and it may not be it, they may not realize it's a pain point, right? I didn't realize my pain point was my pain point, but I'm talking to them to find out about them. I'm finding out, do they have children? Do they work? Are they working right now? You know, do they travel a lot? Like all these things, because why I did it isn't necessarily going to speak to someone if that doesn't click with who they are. So again, that was a long answer, but I think that you have to just have conversations and listen and realize that the less you say, the better, and then connect with them in some way after that so that you can continue the process. You know, I haven't had, I mean, I may throw something, I use, you know, brochures or whatever, but as far as business cards, I stopped using them a long time ago because they were a crutch for me, and I would hand them out because that felt more comfortable than getting someone's contact information. Well, I might as well ask them to stop in the middle of the mall and been one of those people, because how am I ever going to get in contact with them, right? So my biggest thing is getting other people's information. And what I found is, again, it's the posture. If you just ask, people will give you their phone number. Most people. I mean, I will say, well, what's your phone number? And I'll shoot you over some more information. They will, I've never had someone say, I'm not giving it to you. You know, it's just because it's a question and you ask it and they answer. Or if it makes you feel better, you can say, you can look down and be like, what's your phone number? I'll send you some more information. Is your area code 502? And you just kind of wait if that helps you feel a little more comfortable with prompting it. But, you know, you can always ask for that. If you'd rather connect to them on social media, you can do that. I was not initially ever comfortable with that because I share so much of my life on there. I don't really care anymore, but in the beginning it was more I needed to get their phone number. So I think it's about starting a conversation in a normal way, asking them questions about themselves, and then eventually leading into the business. Remembering that this is a process, and the process can go really quickly sometimes, but sometimes not, right? Sometimes it can take you months to get someone to sign up because it takes them months to get, they might need 12 exposures, and it's taken you a long time to get there. So, and that's why you have to have an ever running list and funnel of people so that you don't get so caught up on the one person who's taking 2 months that you think you can't enroll anyone else. You know, everyone will vary. So you need lots of people that you're talking to because some of them will enroll sooner than others, kind of thing.
So
all right.
that's great. Absolutely great. Did you want to do a hand thing? Or
So
you
I don't see any more questions in the chat. If you guys have questions, please unmute yourselves and ask away.
Michelle M does.
Right.
Yeah, please don't be shy.
Just click on your screen.
Hey, it's Lisa in Boston.
Yeah, I figured that was going to happen.
How are y'all doing?
All right, so pick Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
I have
Go
a
ahead.
question. I have a friend that's with another direct sales company, and she was interested in some of our products, and she was kind of looking at kidnapping. What do you do to flip something like that? She was like, well, my husband can sign up and get the kit and be a brand partner, but I can't because I'm too high ranking in my company, but I really want some of your products, and I know the best deal is to get the kit. How do you deal with people that want to kidnap?
I don't want them kidnapped. I don't care. I'm never going to talk someone out of buying something they want to buy.
Oh, right. Do you try to work that angle and try to get, I guess they can't really work the business. I don't know if it could not.
So I don't think it really matters in that moment, right? If they want to buy the kit, I will let them buy the kit. Do you want to build a habit of having people buy a kit and just to buy a kit? No. But what you have to remember is no one has belief until they acquire belief. So for me, I was essentially a kidnapper myself. That's what I was. And had you spoken to me in the beginning and said, do you want more out of this? I would have been like, no, I just want my product for free. So you can't, my point is when that happens, I think you let it happen. And then it's not like you're like, I'm going to set you up a game plan and we're going to get you your product for free, whatever. It's just conversation and you're like, okay, listen, like, let's be real here. If you did this, this, and this, you guys could make this much money this month. Like, I'm totally willing to help you do it if it's something that you want to do, and you just keep planting. So I think that it's sort of like echoing what CJ said. So many people stop the process when they actually enroll the person. It's a continuous process, because after that, yes, they enroll, but you're continuously responsible for helping them build their belief, whether it's a belief check, whether that they're plugging into events and they're hearing stories, which for me was where my belief came from. It just depends. And so I think you can't discount that they're, just because they said they're going to be a kidnapper, that's where they remain, right? You keep planting the little seeds of, hey, this is here for you if you want it. Hey, you could do this, because you never know. And you also never know. I mean, none of us know, right? I mean, I didn't know at any point in time when I would walk into work. I mean, I had to sign papers literally every year that said, Kentucky is an at-will state. We can fire at any time for no reason. Sign the paper if you agree while you're working. You're like, man, I have never felt so appreciated when you sign the paper. So I could have walked into work any day of my life and they would have said, this is over, right? So the same thing can happen in anyone's life. You have no idea what will happen in that person's life, if they'll stay in that company, if that company will stay aligned with their truth. You don't know. And so having that as an open possibility and not being weird or salesy or trying to trick her into it, but basically just being a friend and being like, friend, I know you bought the kit because you wanted the products, but do you realize what's on the table for you this month? And then if she's like, no, I don't want to do it, fine. And then you just randomly, nicely plant little gentle seeds. Hey, we're having a hair care launch. I don't know if you know anybody who would want it, but I bet you can actually get a lot of customers this way. You know, like just planting those little seeds to that person along the way. And again, sort of like I said before, not, for lack of a better way of saying it, predetermining their worth and what they're going to be, right? So it's always looking at the potential of what could be for that person. And that's how you act. You act in the potential, not in what's currently happening right now. And I think if you do that with a genuine heart, you know, she may or may not ever do anything with it, but it would be difficult, again, for somebody to be like, you could just have to do these 3 things and you could earn $1,000. It's difficult for a normal human being to be like, nope, don't want it. You know, so in my opinion, whatever someone wants to buy, please let them buy that. But then at that point, just remember you're almost like you're continuing your exposure process with that person.
I love that. Love that. Thank you. That's a great answer.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Alicia said, thank you, Jen. That was the simplest Fast Start game plan training I have heard.
Oh, really? Gosh, I feel like I said so much.
I can't wait to share it with my team and do it with a new BP today. So
yeah, I have this really cute thing too. Let me see where is it? Oh, it's in my drawer. Almost knocked my coffee over. So it looks like this is a hot mess, but it looks like this, and it's like a game plan. Oh, the last thing I didn't say was to post on social media. So I help them come up with their first post also. This is not necessarily what I do because this is like a list of 30, but it's pretty much a summary of what I did. So I can share that in the Virginia group too.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
I have a question.
First social media post, which by the way, should be what they would say. It shouldn't be what you say. So an easy way to help someone say, well, why did you get started? They're going to tell you. It's either I love the night cream and I figured why not, or I saw your success and I thought, well, if they can do it, I can do it, or whatever it is. That's their first post because that's authentic and that's what's going to connect to their people, not what I craft for them that sounds amazing and perfect. Now, maybe will I tweak some things and maybe will I find an appropriate image to go along with it for them? Sure. But I am not of the mind frame that I should craft their post, their original post, because that's not them. I need it to be very authentic from them. So that is the last thing we do before we finish the game plan. I did forget that. Sorry.
Okay. Well, more chats are in the comments. Question from Kate Blankenship. How do you help someone who signs up as a BP but then is frozen by their own fear?
Well, you have to figure out what that actual fear is. So, because there are many different fears that come in that can stop someone in their tracks. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of a no, fear of what are they going to think about me? You know, so you really have to dig into what is it. And so it's the same thing that, like, if you think of when you're talking to someone who business, right? You know, a lot of times what I end up saying if they're not ready to do it is, well, tell me what's holding you back. And so that's a question that most of the time will give you an answer. Now, are people always 100% honest? No, because you have to be that's vulnerable. That's very vulnerable to tell you my fear. And if I don't know you that well. I will tell you that a lot of times that I found is their biggest fear is letting you down. It has nothing to do with them. They are so afraid that they are not going to be what you think they are. And that's because sometimes we're a little too excited, right? Like CJ said, we're so excited and it means so much to us that they became our brand partner that we're just, what? And so in their face, they're like, oh my gosh, she's like really happy about this and I don't want to let her down, right? So really it's going to have to be that you're comfortable asking the questions. Like, what, and again, you come from everything from a place of compassion. You never understand someone else's life, no matter how much you think you do. You really don't. And so you have to maybe say, this is why knowing their why is important. That's what I would say. Okay. So Jenny, you told me when we first got started that your main goal was to make $500 a month. Now we set up parties and you haven't, whatever the case may be. So tell me what changed. Did something change? Is something holding you back? I want to help you work through this. And you're just going to have to ask the questions. And this is why I think it's really important to have posture and set the game plan the right way, where you're setting up the parties and you're helping them with their list and you're staying a little connected, because then there comes a point in time where you do have to give yourself some grace and realize maybe you have done everything within your control and now you're just going to have to let it go. And if they come back, they'll come back and you'll always be there and you're never going to leave them out or exclude them. But there is a point where it becomes reciprocal energy, where you can't keep giving to someone who never gives anything back. But in the beginning, they don't know any better. So setting them up the right way and having that posture and helping them, having those tough conversations of, I feel like something's holding you back, and just really being honest. Like, what is it that you actually think right now? Say that to them. Like, I've said things before, like, it really bothers me that you haven't gotten started. Like, I feel like I need to be doing something else, but I don't know what that is. So tell me, like, is there something else I can do? Is there something specific that you're afraid to do that I can I have to know those things, because I'll drive myself crazy if I don't. So I think it's just, again, a really natural, authentic conversation to have with that person.
Absolutely. I love that answer. Thank you. And we used to call us being, sometimes with a new person or with any person, we can, as brand partners, we're a little afraid to kind of get mired in the muck or in the mud, right? And so an honest conversation where now this person is kind of sharing where they are and you possibly having to do the same thing can be very, very scary, right? That vulnerable. Right, my mentor used to say that, being mired in the muck of someone else's life, right? But that's what we're here for. That is why we are here. We're here, asking that question and being honest with people is why we're here. We're helping them. We want to help them grow and help them go to where they want to be. And so, I love that you do that. I've always had that sense about you, that you're willing to ask those questions and get involved in the life and find out what's really going on. So asking, identifying what that fear really is part of what we should be doing as sponsors.
Yep. And if you think about it too, like, your main role of as a leader is seeking solutions. So no matter what the issue is, whether it's that you can't get a prospect to the next step, whether it's that you can't get someone started, whether it's that somebody is not happy, whatever, it's always seeking solutions. And if my 7-year-old walked in here right now and said, Mommy, I blah, blah, whatever. And I'd be like, be a solution seeker. And she's like, okay, really, it's a great way of thinking in life, is to not be a victim. If you're constantly looking for solutions, you can't be a victim.
Right.
Honestly. So, okay.
Okay, so next question is from Bria, who's our baby brand partner. Hi, Bria. Brand partners that started with a $20 kit, no product. What are some things to offer as giveaways to still make it fun and not feel like you have nothing to give away?
That's going to have to be either. Okay. Sorry, my brain just works. So either as the sponsor, you can offer stuff, or if neither one of you has anything to offer, even little $5 gift cards to Amazon, which, by the way, you can text immediately to someone. So they don't have to be a physical thing. So like, for example, if I offer to reimburse someone shipping, the way I do that is via an Amazon card. I do it as soon as they enter their order. I text it literally text it to them immediately, the $10 Amazon gift card. So you could do little $5 Amazon gift card drawings, which, remember, are a write-off. You have to keep track of course, but they are a business write-off for that person. So even if you did 2 of those, I mean, people just like to win. To me, if you've never been to like a baby shower or a wedding shower, maybe you don't fully get it. But I've played so many dumb games that I could care less about ever playing in my life. I would never just be like, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to unscramble some baby words. That's what I'm going to do. No, but you do it because it's fun and everybody's doing it and it's engaging. And if I win, you know, a notepad from the Dollar Tree, I'm still excited about it. Like that's just, you know, and so unfortunately, because that is me, I'm very frugal. I do think you can find very inexpensive things for people if you really wanted to, but in this time you can't really do that as much. So a little digital Amazon gift card would work, even if you just did one $5 Amazon gift card as the drawing, you know, and a lot of times I don't say the prize. I don't going to be. I just say we're drawing for prizes because that's typically enough to lure people in enough to be intrigued by what the prize is. And usually they don't care. Like they'll be super excited if it's something amazing, but it's just the fact of the prize itself, I think, is more of the enticement. And if that isn't what you wanted, then ask something else and I'll come up with something else.
Okay, perfect. So Mary Beth has a question. Do you have any tips for asking your preferred customers to host a party Zoom for you?
Oh yeah. So same way that I would ask anyone, really. It's, you know, so there was a time, I don't do this anymore, but I'll tell you this in case this appeals to you. So basically what I told my customers was I was launching a customer appreciation program. It was whatever, you know, it was like, we'll call it that. But really it was just, I'll give you stuff if you do stuff for me, right? But I called it a customer appreciation program. And so I said, I'm launching a customer appreciation program. I thought of you first because you've been such a loyal customer to me. I would love for you to be able to earn some other things that you've never tried or earn back maybe something on your next purchase. You know, I don't know. You have to work with whatever you have. So I am never of the mindset that you just randomly spend and give things away. I've not given away very many things ever in the history of my business. Because I don't think you have to. I think what we have is good enough that we don't need to bribe people for it. But there are instances, of course, where it works to your benefit. That's why you have 3 or free. That's why you have Neora Gives Back. And there are some times, because this is a business, that you have to invest in it. So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I think you can do whatever fits your means. I'm never asking you to go put yourself in tremendous debt to have customer appreciation parties. That's just silly to me. But work with whatever you have. If it's easier for you to give them a gift of some sort, a product of some sort with a certain amount of sales, if it's easier for you to give them, you know, reimburse them $50 off their next order through an Amazon gift card because that's easier for you than buying a product that you don't have, whatever, but you can come up with your own thing that fits you. And so basically it was like, you know, I'm launching a customer appreciation program. I thought of you first because you're one of my most loyal customers. I would love for you to earn whatever it is that you're offering. The only thing that you would have to do is invite your friends onto whatever. So if it's onto a Zoom or I already have I'll have a Facebook party and all you would have to do is add your friends into it. And if they order X amount of dollars, I'll give you this, whatever you feel like works for you in your life and what you have to do right now. And then say, you know, what I used to say, what I said when I did it, because it was in person, was all you do is invite the people. I'll show up and do everything else. That's what I said. Because it is very, very powerful, especially if you've been in the business for a long time and you feel like you don't know anyone else, which PS, that means because you're not growing your network, but we'll talk about that later. When you're doing that, I've been there, so I'm not judging. And so that was my creative solution was, okay, I'm not going to cold market. That was just a decision I made. You don't have to make that decision. That was mine. And so I said, well, I'm going to look at building my network from my network. And which is a big thing, really, if you think about it. You get really small-minded and think of just your circle, and then you start knowing Neora people, so then you think everyone does it. No, they don't, you guys. Just people in your smaller social circle do. So if you step outside of that, you have a much larger social circle. So it's kind of like you're building your network from that person's network. And no matter what, at the end of it, let's say they have 4 friends who want to order. I will always present the business because I feel like that's the right thing to do. There's no other reason behind it besides I feel like that's the right thing to do. And I would say, listen, 4 of your friends want to place orders with me. I'm totally happy to just place those orders with me, but I need you to know that if you enrolled in our business, you would already meet your first goal. You would have earned free product, and I can tell them exactly how much money they would make because it's, you know, I can calculate that easily in our new plan. So, you know, and then if they say, no, you can have the customers, I'm not going to argue with them. Okay, great. Now I have 4 new customers, and I'm going to go offer that same thing to those 4 people and expand my network through their network and grow it that way. But if they say yes, then of course I'm going to give them the customers. But I'm never going to try to flip a customer who has no interest in at least getting their product for free out of my customer base, because that is a huge part of our pay and our bonuses, is keeping people as customers. So now if I need it one more because it's going to get me a Lexus or something, okay, I'll flip that customer today. But as a general rule, I want my customers to be happy customers unless they want to do something at least to earn free product.
Love
Great.
it.
Okay, questions are pouring in. Question from Holly Johnson. When people approach you saying they're interested in signing up as a customer or brand partner, and you follow up using the system, and then they go missing, how do you follow up, and when do you stand down?
That never has happened to me. I'm kidding. Be on a regular basis. But here's something I want to tell you too, just so maybe you can it can help you detach emotionally, right? Because I know that it feels very personal. It always does. And to me, it's always just very mind-boggling. I'm like, you asked me, I don't understand why now you're ignoring me. It's very strange how it works psychologically, but it does. But I'm going to tell you this story that's totally non-Neora related so that you can understand that people are always this strange. So I was selling our kitchen table and chairs, right? Legitimately a lady. She's like, I want them. Can I come to your house tomorrow and look at them? And I'm like, sure, of course. Where do you live? What area? I tell her, we go back and forth. And I said, okay, so what time would you like to come? She's still to this day, she's never responded back. And I'm like, what in the world? She told me she wanted the table. I didn't reach out to her. So it's a similar concept. So at that point I was like, you know what? That's just people. It has nothing to do with our business or not. It's just the way people are. So to answer your question though, number one, make sure that you're actually setting up that follow-up before it happens. So what I mean by that is, if I'm sending you something to look at today, I'm going to say, do you think you can look at it today? And if you say yes, and I say, okay, great. Would it be best for me to call you tonight or check in or whatever, text you, whatever it is you're doing, you know, would it be better for me to check in with you tonight or maybe tomorrow around lunch? And so I'm trying to set that follow-up date in advance. I do realize that sometimes you just send something and there is no going back and forth, right? So if I do that, I tell them when I'm going to follow up. So if I'm just sending something over and it hasn't been a real conversational thing, I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to send you this. I'll touch base with you tomorrow around lunchtime and kind of see what you thought and help you answer any questions you might have. So that when I do follow up, it's never feeling like I'm bothering anyone. It looks like I'm staying true to what I said. It looks like I'm following through on my word, which is a totally different feeling, mostly just to you. I don't think either way it's different to them, right? So then at that point, when people stop responding, what you're going to find the underlying theme of me is I say what I think. It's how I've always been. I'm never going to change that about me. And so I literally will message and say, okay, what happened? Like, you asked me and then I answered you, and then what happened? Why did you stop? What happened? Why'd you stop talking to me? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've said that. Usually someone will write back and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to blow you off, you know, blah, blah, XYZ happened. And again, this is when I say you don't know what's going on in someone else's life. You may think it's all about you, which is the typical way of being. We're very egotistical to begin with until we really grow and evolve, right? But it may have nothing to do with you. Maybe something awful happened in their life. Maybe they've been really, really sick for 6 days. Maybe that you don't know. And so how you approach a no or an ignore, to me, is sometimes far more important than how you approach the person who's super eager to sign up. Because if you come at them in a way that's like nasty or even just a little bit off or salesy or anything because they didn't respond, and maybe something really bad happened in their life, they'll be, to me, I'd be like, that's not my people. My people wouldn't be like that to me. So, you know, I'm very honest and say, what happened? What happened? You stopped responding. Did I say something? Did I offend you? What, if you're not interested, it's not a big deal. Just let me know because I don't want to bother you. And so I'm very honest in those things and in anything. I call out any vulnerability. So if I'm calling somebody and I'm nervous as crap to tell them what I'm about to tell them, I'm going to say, I am so freaking nervous to tell you this right now. And I don't even know why. Because why not? Because people like that you're honest and vulnerable too, so I'm always of the mind frame to basically stay authentic and say what you think, but always in a kind way, of course.
Okay, great, thank you. Question from Zoe Morris. Hi, Zoe. What do you think what do you think what do you have found worked best for a Zoom party, and walk us through your best Zoom party scenario?
Okay, so again, I think it's more about getting the people there, and then it's going to be in the follow-up for sure, because it's difficult to get someone to enroll on the Zoom, right? But I've done it still right now. I'm doing it in 2 different ways. And the majority of the parties I have booked this month are Zoom because people just want me to do it so they can see it. And then they're good doing it themselves, which I'm amazed. I'm happy to do that. So, one big piece that I feel like people miss sometimes is the conversation at the beginning. So, and maybe, because I'm like, well, what do you do in a home party? Don't you talk to people? And they're like, well, not really. And I'm like, oh dear gosh. Well, so you should, because you should actually make a somewhat of a connection with people. And because I would hope that you would just want to, I mean, really, but outside of that, it's because you're just a stranger. You can't expect that they care anything about what you have to say until you make them feel a little more comfortable with it. So, for example, there was a party, this was last month, but a Zoom party. We basically I felt like I hung out with these people, right? I mean, it was like 10 minutes, but still I knew a lot about them. And then I was like, that girl is so fun. Like, she felt the same way. She felt like we were fun. And I think everybody realizes it's not so serious and it's not this stuffy businessy thing. It's like, oh, these are like real people, And then she ended up getting on a Facebook party, and then she ended up enrolling as a brand partner the next day. And then we launched her before the month ended, and she got her product for free. Like, all of those things happened. And it was a good thing for me to even do, because I realized that because she had seen a Zoom party and a Facebook party, she immediately was willing to do them because she knew they weren't anything big or uncomfortable or scary. So we did it literally. She signed up, and 2 hours later we had a Facebook party for her, and she ended up getting her product for free. So, and she's one of the people who has 3 parties with me this month, like, because she's not afraid of it, because she already did it. So I do think the conversations are big. And if for lack of you can always kind of do that, so, all right, so tell me how blah, blah, because it does get the thing started, because then it can lead to more questions. And so, like, for example, one last night, she's like, oh, we work together. And I was like, tell me where you all work again. Because I really didn't even know, but I'm like, tell me where you all work again. And then they told me, and I'm like, oh, and I knew they weren't working right now. And I'm like, oh, so do you have kids at home? And, like, things like that. Sometimes it's more of like just literally like people need like a debriefing, right? It's like they're suffering from PTSD and they need a debrief of their life right now. And so people will be like, oh, it's so wonderful to see faces. I cannot tell you how many people have alcohol in the Zoom parties right now. It's crazy. I'm like, you guys, it's 2 and they're all having one. So it's like people need the face-to-face right now a lot. Yes, everyone's at home. Yes, they may tune into your Facebook parties too, but they need human interaction. A lot of people do. So they really enjoy it, and they'll talk a lot more. So I don't put a time limit on it. I let us have some conversations. Now, if I have parties booked back to back to back to back, then I do have to make sure that by 15 minutes I'm starting the party. But we do a lot of conversations. And then typically for me, that leads to telling me what I'm going to do next. So sometimes if we're very, very conversational and it's very, very friendly, then we literally just kind of more conversationally talk about the products. And I always show before and after pictures when I'm doing that. But I mean, we may more likely just kind of continue into that friendly conversation and kind of shows them before and afters and talk about some things. Another thing is I've definitely shown video. I do both because I kind of feel out the party. Yesterday, I actually, on one of the parties, I asked them. I said, listen, what I typically do is show you a video that goes over the products because it goes over it way faster than me. And she's got all these cute little graphics. I said, but I'll leave it up to you. I can either do that or I can just walk through some before and afters and we can talk that way. I'll leave it up to you all. And then they were like, well, we'd rather just have you walk through some of the before and afters. And so I was like, okay, cool. But no matter what, I always set an expectation. And so I say, whether I'm showing the video, because here's another thing. I've had people have technical issues. They can't play the video. Then I don't want you to be like, I don't know what to do if I don't have a video, right? So, you know, whether I'm playing the video or I'm just showing before and afters and chit-chatting that way, then I'm going to always say beforehand, well, pay attention because there's a lot of products. And so jot down anything that you think might be for you or even for someone else that you know, because notoriously at the end, everybody's like, what was that stuff that does this? You know, and that's how I say it because that's the truth. And so that way they pay more attention. And then the other side of that is at the end, I can say, all right, so what'd you guys jot down? You know, what were some of the products that you liked the most? I want to help you figure out the best way to get your hands on them. And I always go over business at the end. So, and I think I pretty much close everything the same exact way because it's just natural to me, is that our very best value on all of our products is always in our business pack. And when you do that, you allow yourself the ability to be able to earn extra money or free products. And so I always say that. And then I go, and then of course I talk about our promotional kit because that's huge. And I do outline the heartbeat, to me, the culture of the company, because I say, this was not going to be a promotion this month, but with everything going on, they felt like a way that they could really help out and give back is to essentially make getting started in a business free this month, because that's the truth. If you purchase a product, it is free. So when you're looking at it that way, and then I always say, I realize the business isn't for everyone, and that's okay too. And I talk about our sets, like our advanced skincare set and our wellness set, because that's the next best value. And I always throw in too, I say, and by the way, if you get this as a brand partner, this price is even cheaper on these. I always say that. And then we talk about and then I show just the slide of the individual pictures, but we don't stay there because I don't want everybody examining it and thinking of all the prices, right? So I stop sharing and then I'm like, all right, so tell me what you jotted down. Like, what were some of the products that you were the most interested in? Do you have questions about the business that you would like me to answer? And that way, at least I can help pull out of people what it is that they were wanting, what I would do at the end of a party anyway, but this way, so that the person who's hosting the party knows what they're following up with. Like last night, the girl, at first she was like, well, just send me some pricing. And I was like, well, tell us what you're wanting. What are your main concerns so we can come up with what would give you your best result? Because to me, our main goal is to provide the best results and the best value. And I really strongly believe in that. So if someone tells me they want to get rid of their dark spots, then I'm definitely going to tell them to use our night cream and our Illuma Boost, not just the Illuma Boost, right? Because that will give them a better result than just using one or the other. So it just depends on what if they're really concerned about their eyes. My first thing is you just need the advanced skin. That's what you need. But if they're not willing to spend it, then I'm like, okay, well then let's look at maybe the night cream and the eye duo. And if they're not willing to spend that, then we'll go down to the eye duo. And if they're not willing to spend that, then we'll go to the eye serum. But I work my way down. I don't just take it for, okay, you have a problem with your eyes, let's give you hydrogels. No, it's always going to be what's the best value for them. So that's what I work through with the people. So like, for example, last night, she was like, her main thing was dark spots. And then she said she sometimes had breakouts. And so I was like, well, what you need is at least our night cream, our Illuma Boost, and our acne pads. And then we worked out the pricing of that. And then I'm like, if you order this month, you'll get 10% off next month. So you can always add something else into your regimen next month for 10% off, because I'm not just saying it, I truly care about whoever is buying something and what they're spending. I don't like to just take people's money. I want them to have a value in it. And I want them to understand that, I'm telling you that you'll get 10% off of whatever you order next month. So make sure you at least get your free shipping. Hit the threshold for free shipping this month, and then maybe the other things you want, you could always add on next month for 10% off. Because she lost her job. She has no money. I'm not going to be like, well, let me take all of your money. Instead, I'm like, let's get you to free shipping because that's what's best for you right now. And then the other thing, maybe you can order next month for 10% off. And she was like, that is what I will do. And so then we didn't do it on the Zoom because that'd be weird, right? But she called her immediately after and got her order in. So even though I know I've kind of wavered in not telling you a direct way of doing it, I do think the key things are obviously getting the people there. having conversations in the beginning. So where you, again, because you're going to learn the problems that you're solving for people, right? If I have a bunch of 22-year-olds who don't have children, they don't really care how busy my life was and how I juggled it with my kids. So instead, I'm going to be like, we have trips you can earn, and your travel becomes a write-off, and your cell phone becomes a write-off, because they care about that, right? So it's, and those, my story can't change. It's historical data. It doesn't just change.
Right.
I can change parts of it that I highlight depending on who I'm speaking to. So, and then you have to use a third party. So whether it's the video or the before and afters, I think is key. I think setting up the expectation to get them to focus on something so that when it ends, you can kind of pull back out that focus. Not everyone will tell you what they're interested in, but you'd be surprised. If you just ask the question, they'll tell you. I've told them they can type it in the chat box if they're not comfortable. They're usually comfortable, but I think that they're comfortable because of the conversations we have in the beginning. They feel like they can tell me that, and it's not going to be weird, or I'm not going to be pushy, right? And then the big thing with, if you're going to show before and afters, I think you have to be really careful of not going into tons of scientific detail. To be honest with you, people like me care about that. Most people don't. And if they do, they're going to tell you, and then you can always get them that information, right? But people want to know why do you like it? That's what they want to know. So I'm not going to be like, I may mention, if they didn't watch the video, I will mention some of the key things of the products. But if it's you and you don't know the key things of the product, then just don't say them. Say what you like about the products. This is my point of, I don't think it necessarily matters as much what happens in the middle, as long as you don't oversay things or sound like you're the most scientific expert in the planet, because you have to remember that people are looking at you saying, do I want to do that? Can I do that? And so even if we go through, if I say a lot of information or something, because I tend to be able to do it because I talk so quickly, I will say, please don't think that you ever have to know this if you don't want to. I always say that. I say, I want to know everything. I'm the read the manual person, but I've also been doing this for 6.5 years. You do not have to know everything I just told you. We have videos for that. I say that too, so it kind of lets them off the hook. So does that answer your question?
It does.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So next question is, what do you say when someone says they don't know that many people? Never heard of that one.
Well, I'm very sarcastic. So I say, yeah, right. I encourage you to look at your phone right now and tell me how many contacts you have. Because really, again, what they're telling you is, I am afraid I don't know enough people. They don't really think they don't know enough people. What they're saying is, I'm afraid I don't know enough people. And so that is when you have to help them with that list, right? So I make them look at their phone and their contacts, because even myself, sometimes I'm like, do I know this many people, right? And so I'm like, okay, take out your phone right now and tell me how many contacts you have in there. And they'll tell you, well, but I don't know those people. I haven't talked to those people in 20 years. I'm like, no. How many people do you have in there? 200, I'm like, okay, let's not say we don't know people. Maybe you're afraid to talk to those people. Maybe you haven't talked to those people in a while. So let's help you create a list of people that you know, and then we'll work on ways that you can build relationships with them again, or invite them to something. A new brand partner of mine, she did a party. She did 2 parties. And then she was like, we were talking about scheduling them for this month. And she's like, I just don't know if I know enough people to be successful in this. And I said, well, I know that's not true, but I said, I think what you're telling me is you don't have a lot of close friends. And so you feel like you don't have enough people to invite to these parties. I said, but you have to revisit those lists that you made, because she made them, and actually be willing to invite those people to these parties. And if you're not willing to do that, then you have to be willing to engage in some way of building the relationships with those people, where you're reaching out with them through social media, you're commenting on their posts, you're doing whatever. And I said, and to be really honest with you, I can't control that. That's going to be on you, whether or not it's important enough to you to get what you wanted out of this, to have the courage to rebuild those relationships, or ask those people that you're not closest to come to your events. And so again, that's not something you can control, right? But you can help them see that they do know people. You can help them create those lists by categories. Because again, you can't say, who do you know from high school? No one went to my high school. You can help them find people. And then it's kind of putting it back on them. like we've got the people. So it's now kind of on you. Are you willing to invite them? Are you willing to reach out? Are you willing to rebuild relationships? You know, I can't control that part. So I think it's more of a kind of a putting the mirror back where you're showing it and kind of saying, okay, now it's back to you, and seeing what they do with it.
Perfect. Perfect. Once you, question from Teresa. Once you establish a relationship with a preferred customer and they order, how often do you check on them? That's a great question.
So that's different for every customer that I have. To me, it's similar as a brand partner, right? So when you get a brand partner started, I think it's very important that you ask them what they prefer. So meaning, if someone would have contacted me every day and told me a bunch of things and asked me to do all these, I would have been so turned off because I am self-driven. I prefer to do things myself. Like, that is my personality. I could have talked to you once a month for all I cared, or never. Like, that part I didn't need that, right? But some people need more. Some people would rather talk on the phone. Some people would rather never talk on the phone. Some people would only prefer to use Messenger. So it just kind of depends on your brand partner, right? So you're saying, you know, what do you, ideally, what would you like to see from me? Do you need me to talk to you every day? Would you rather talk over text once a week? Like, what, you know, I'm asking them. So to me, the same thing is true of a customer. It's like, okay, I'm establishing what you want. And sometimes, I mean, almost always, I know kind of what they want when they start. They'll tell me, I only want to buy it this month. I'll come back to you if I want more, right? They may say, I want the night cream every month. In which case, I'm not going to then check in and say, are you sure you still want the night cream this month, even though you told me you did? No, I'm not going to do that. So it just kind of depends on who they are. Now, I do always tell my customers about specials. If they didn't order, no matter if they told me they weren't going to, they weren't. So example, a girl ordered night cream last month. And then this month she texts me and she's like, I just so you know, I don't have any money right now. I'm not going to buy any more night cream. And I said, you know, okay, no worries. I said, but just so you know, you do have a 10% coupon sitting there waiting on you this month. So no matter what you purchase, you're going to get that 10% off, and then it'll still be there next month for when you do want to purchase your night cream again. So there's just little things kind of that I still always say to people. So if you didn't order this month, I'm definitely going to reach out to you and say, if maybe I've done it every other month for 6 years, who knows, but I'm still going to do it and say, me again, just a reminder, you have a 10% coupon sitting there ready for you if you want to purchase anything. Doesn't have to be what you got last month. So it just, to me, it does vary. There are some customers who I really don't know well at all, and they have no interest in knowing me. They've never responded to my phone calls. They don't answer my text messages, in which case I don't talk to them. I still send them the specials. I'll still tell them if they're going to get their 10% off or whatever. But if you looked at our text thread, they've never one time responded to me, whatever, you know, and so they're controlling their own account, and that's fine with me. For people whose accounts I control, for the most part, I know what they're ordering and the frequency of it, and there's not a huge thing in between. I will tell you something that I did with this whole pandemic thing was I did create a video, which I think Sam told everybody about it in Neora U anyway, but I created a video through Go Prospect, but it doesn't have to be through Go Prospect. You can just make it on your phone, where it was pretty much like, you know, I said, you know, it's Jennifer, and I said, some of you know me very well, some of you don't know me at all, but I am your brand partner with Neora. I am the person who helped you with your orders and any questions that you might have. And I said, but this is completely not Neora related. This is really just coming to you as a human being and making sure that you're okay, letting you know that I'm not here for your Neora product needs. If there's something that I can help you with in some way, if you're local to me and I can help you in some way, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and I'll do what I can. And so I needed them to know that they are humans to me first. And I felt like before I could tell them about some spa at-home facial set, but I just pretended like maybe they didn't just lose their job and everybody lost their job, or they're going insane because they never knew their spouse like this, or, you know, whatever. I felt like it was very insensitive of me and would come across poorly if I just said, hey, by the way, we have a facial set. You want it? You know, like, so I was very mindful of sending a personal message first. Actually, no one responded to it, which is interesting, but, you know, whatever. That's not what it was about. I just wanted them to know that I do actually care about them as human beings. So there's different things like that I'll do. I've definitely sent a gift here and there. I've definitely, I like to use samples for business building purposes. So either for someone who is, I think would be good at the business, or I like to give my customers things, because why not? They've been paying me for months. And so if they've never tried a LumaBoost, I would love for them to try a LumaBoost, because more than likely they're going to love it, and then they're going to add it to their order. So I feel like there are little things like that that I've done along the way too, but I am not the person who has some large organizational schedule and spreadsheet of what I do. It's more of I feel it out by my gut. I don't know. That's not a great answer probably, but but more so it's knowing the expectation from the beginning, like I would with a brand partner of, is this something that you think you're going to want regularly? Do you want me to check on you every month? Do you want me to just tell you when we have specials? Like I set that expectation up in the beginning, which I feel like people appreciate. And then I never feel like I'm bothering them because they already told me I could tell them about every special. So
Love it.
hopefully that helps.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was perfect.
Question from Ann Jenkins. What do you say to someone you have invited 1 million times to an RRP and have never come without feeling like you're bugging them to attend your next Zoom or Facebook RRP?
They've never come? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm. So, I'm taking it as, what do you do when somebody you have invited to your party 1 million times, they never showed up, and when is the point where you stop?
Okay, so before I would stop, I would say the truth. I would say, so Elaine, I know I've invited you to probably like 6 parties now and you've never come. Is it something that you're just not comfortable with? Like, would you be more comfortable meeting up for coffee over Zoom to hear a little more? Or is it truly just something that you're not interested in? Because the last thing I want to do is feel like I'm bothering you. But I also don't want to leave you out if this is something that you might want to hear more about. That's what I would say.
Perfect. Love it.
Questions, keep it real. Our next question is from
the Galaxy
S10e. What do you say to someone that says, hey, I think I want to do that stuff you're doing. I just lost my job. But yet the person keeps saying, sorry, I've just been so busy.
So meaning they told you they wanted
it, and then you reach out to them because they said they wanted it. They wanted to join the business, and then they say, oh, I've been so busy.
Okay. Well, whatever. People need to say what they need to say so they feel better about themselves, right? Just don't read too much into that part and try not to judge it, right? Because who knows why they said it. Mm-hmm. Maybe they've been busy not trying to go crazy and they just really can't talk to anybody right now. Who knows? So I would just say, well, is there, I'm available tonight at 7 or tomorrow at noon. Do either one of those work for you? We can hook up and talk about it a little bit more. Or we can hook up and get you going. I say it literally takes 3 minutes and you'll be up and operating a business. So I think almost pushing it in that direction a little bit, like not saying, oh, okay, well, do you want to, do you not want to? Basically like give them 2 options of when you're available and can chat, and say, we can either chat on the phone, I can Zoom with you so we can see each other face to face, but literally would only take us 3 minutes to get you going. Which of those times works better for you, and see if they respond that way.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I love it. So great question from Kate Shaver. Hi, Kate. It's the end of crazy day with kids, homeschooling, life, and it's 10 p.m. and you realize you haven't done your 2 a day. What do you do to check off that box? Just fire off a random message to someone on your want prospect list saying, hey girl, can you do me a favor and watch this or try this? Is that icky? Should I just spend that time building relationships and engaging in convo, trying to have an opening instead? Or just fire off the 2 messages asking for feedback and see what they say? I've got better at my 2 a day. Give me all the tips. I'm currently in a massive exposure blitz for a couple of days and life gets crazy. And then I don't do anything for a week. And then I'm back to firing off a bunch of exposures again. I need to get into a better sled edge rhythm. Sorry for the long drawn out question. 2 a day tips, please.
Got it. Okay. Number 1, make an appointment with yourself. You're going to have to. The only way that you can, no matter what has happened in my life, whether I've been working, whether I've been at home, whether my kids are here, whether they're not here, if I don't have some form of an appointment with myself to do this, or vice versa, if I don't have some appointments of when I'm going to do this and when I'm not, I will either work all day long, never see my kids, which is not why any of us do this, nor is it necessary, right? Then, or the other side is I'll be with my kids all day long, and then that will happen. It's 10 o'clock and you're like, I didn't do anything. It's really easily solvable by looking at your day, even just one day in advance. I don't know. I don't even know what day. I mean, I know what today is because I had to know, but most of the time, I literally thought yesterday was Thursday. For about 4 hours, I thought yesterday was Thursday. Even though I was doing parties, they were on my schedule, but I still just really was very unaware. So I think if you say to yourself, okay, tomorrow looks like this. And here's the other thing sometimes. Sometimes it's just taking a little look at yourself and saying, well, could I wake up 10 minutes earlier and do those 2 days in the 10 minutes before I got started on school? Because sometimes I have to do that myself. I'm like, did I maybe not need to sleep till 10 a.m.? Probably could have woken up at 9 and gotten a lot of things done in between before my, so one of those things is taking a good, honest look at yourself, but also even if you just schedule the time to do the 2 a day, because kind of what you said is what I was thinking in my head before I heard the whole thing, but I'm a both. So I'm not a hey girl. That's not me. I can't do it, but a lot of people do and it works. So I'm not taking away from it. If that's who you are and how you've built your business, keep doing it. To me, it's so inauthentic to me that it comes across that way, which is not effective. If it is you, it doesn't come across inauthentic, therefore it works, right? So I think that if that's something you would say and do it. But I do think the biggest piece is building the relationships so that you build the names in the funnel. So if you have no names in the funnel, then maybe your time for the next week should be spent building relationships. So every day you're at least starting 2 to 4 conversations, or you're engaging on someone's social media or whatever to build those relationships. Because at the end of the 7 days, now you're going to have a bunch of names that you've been building relationships with, and now you've built that funnel. And then that next week, you're never going to go back to that point, right? Because then at that point, the next week, you're going to have your funnel of who to reach out to for the 2 a days because you built them the week before. And then in addition to that, you're going to still be doing the 2 to 4 conversations. So I think 2 a day is what we need, right? But if you don't have any name to choose from, I really think it's in your best interest to just take, or maybe it's just 4 days that you have to do it. It depends on the time of the month, right? Maybe it's 3 days that you take building relationships, like very intentionally spending 3 days building a bunch of relationships. And I don't mean that you're like hanging out with everyone. I mean that you're engaging with them, that you're messaging with them, that you're asking them how they are, that you're whatever, that you're doing something so that when you do reach out, it's not so weird. It doesn't look like you're hey girling them, right? It's like we've been chit-chatting about some stuff. Hey, by the way, I'm doing this thing on Thursday. I'd love for you to come, no pressure. And if you don't want to, it's not a big deal. But, now that we've been chatting a little bit, I thought about you. Like, that's so much more natural. And to me just feels better to me, because I really do live under the mind frame that you don't need anyone. You don't need a certain person. You don't need that one person to be on your team. You think you do. You don't need that one person. What you need are people who need this and who want this. And so when you build relationships, you find those people, you attract them because you're looking for people that want it. And that's what you're focused on. And so I think in that scenario, step 1 is you're going to have to at least make an appointment with yourself every day. If you had an appointment for this, for example, you clearly had this written in your calendar that you were going to get on this at 10, and you just took 2 hours out of your day to do this, right? Your 2 a day takes 10 minutes. Right. Sometimes 20, but so if you just wrote down, okay, 10 a.m., 2 a day, or if you write down, 9 a.m., build relationships, for 10 minutes, you're going to go engage with people. 12 noon during lunch, I'm going to reach out to the 2 people. And I have to have the names ready. That's just how my brain operates, because what will happen and this is why having a list of some sort, I'm also not, it's whatever works for you. If you have to write it on a paper plate, then keep it on a paper plate. I don't care. But definitely keep track of the people, because you will forget. There's no way around it. You will forget who you're talking to unless it's just one person, which we hope it's not, right? So if I'm building relationships with these 6 people from the last 3 days, I have their name written down that I'm building. They're under my building relationships note so that I don't forget to go engage with them. Well, now I've built 6 names. So they can go into my actual exposure process funnel of people so that I can do my first exposure with them. But then at the same time, I'm also going to continuously give at least 10 minutes to building the relationship so that I'm doing both. So it's 15, 20 minutes a day of work. It's nothing, right? If that. And if you really have something that you really want to say to somebody and you think of it at 2 a.m, throw it in your notes section. So it's totally ready for you the next day to have on hand, right? So I think that, but you have to schedule it. So if you're looking at it, and it's not like if you miss it at 12 and it's 1 o'clock and you do it, fine. But if you don't, it's something called Parkinson's law. And it's that your work expands of time. So if you have 24 hours to do it, you're going to take 24 hours to do it. But if you say from 12 to 12:15, I'm doing this, more than likely you will do it in the 15 minutes. That's just how it works. It's our brains. They're a crazy thing, right? And then if you think about it this way, if you have this list of 6 people that you've been building relationships with, and now you're moving them over to your exposure process people, well, you have 6 names. And so for first 3 days, you already have 2 names for this day, 2 names for this day, or if you're going gung-ho, all 6 names on one day, whatever. But you have that ready so that when it hits 12 o'clock and you're a crazy person because you've been doing math or social studies when you weren't made to do that, and you're really like, I would rather just go crawl in a hole right now. No, I made an appointment with myself that from 12 to 12:15, I was reaching out to these people, have them specifically right here. I go do it and I move on with life. And that is what I had to do to build my business in the beginning. I did not spend very much time on this business because I did not have it. It wasn't an excuse. I didn't have it. It did not exist in my life. So I had to do things in a very short period of time that were very A activity. So they were all about the exposure process. That's where my time went because that's the only time I had to give it. And if you're doing that, otherwise, if you don't have a list of any sort and you're just trying to pull from thin air, that 15 minutes is going to be spent saying, what am I doing? What am I doing? And then you're gonna be like, oh, it's been 20 minutes now and I've still done nothing, right? So it's a little bit about preparation. It's a little bit about accountability. Maybe you need a workout partner. Maybe you do. Maybe you need a workout partner to be like, hey, just every day, let's text each other and say, hey, I did this. Because it's not about your to-do list. It's about I have done it list, right? Everybody can have a fabulous to-do list that I could share every day, but that doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what you actually do? And that's what your workout partner is for. They're not for complaining. They're not for commiserating. They're not for, yes, you can become their friend. That's not what I'm saying. But it's really for a quick check-in of, hey, I had conversations with 3 new people, and I reached out to 2. Or I followed up with 1 or whatever. That's what a workout partner is, because it's not about the other person. It's about you holding yourself accountable to someone other than you. So maybe that's what you need, at least until you can get in the habit of scheduling it and following through. So I hope that helped. It was, again, a long answer.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Thank you. Okay, Jennifer Michael, how do you address that the $20 kit needs to include the ADO to qualify to get paid? So it is actually $106 minus $20 coupon. It feels misleading to say it's only $20.
So saying this from only love, that's in your head. It's not misleading because the business kit is only $20. And if they do that, it's not misleading to say it's a $20 business kit and you get a $20 coupon to immediately apply to a product purchase. If they don't make a product purchase, they don't get the $20 coupon. That's simple. And then at the time of enrollment, I feel like, again, because it's not about like, ooh, let's hurry up and sneak and get them to sign up, maybe. I'm very open and honest in an enrollment. It's like, listen, it's the whole reason why I always promoted the $500 kit. I'm like, you can do whatever you want, but if you do this kit, all your boxes. You're open and meeting the requirements for everything in this one purchase. Otherwise, if that's not what you want, fine, but let's come up with a plan to make sure that we get you that within your 30 days so that you have the best chance of earning every piece of compensation that we have to offer, right? So I feel like that's more in what you're saying and maybe what you're thinking. It's very possible to interject your own hiccups of things into your conversations because you're assuming that it's misleading. If it's misleading, or if you feel it's misleading, maybe look at what you're saying. Because I don't feel like I've ever misled someone in that, but it's because of how I talk about it too. Now, if we go to sign up, and I also no one signs up without me. No. If they are signing up, then I walk them through it. I have signed up people for them, and I will if they really want me to, but I always suggest sign up and I walk them through it because it's training that's essentially how they're going to sign up a customer as well in a very similar process. So if someone says, I want to enroll, I say, great, I'm calling you right now. If they're on the phone with me, I say, okay, are you in front of a computer? If they're like, no, I'm like, okay, put me on speaker, go to Safari on your phone. I'm going to walk you through it. I don't leave it to chance that they're going to pick the right thing or do the right thing. I just don't feel like that's responsible. They're starting a business, for heaven's sake. So in that process, if they say they're doing the $20 kit and then it shows you get a $20 coupon. And so I'm going to say, okay, so this $20 coupon can be applied to anything that you want to purchase. Just so you know, if you're interested in earning free product, you're going to need to make a $90 purchase, which will, so, and if they say no, that's not on you, that's on them. I mean, it is what it is. And there's plenty of people who will maybe say no, and then they'll get some customers, and then they'll be like, well, crap, I'm going to go order that $90 product now because I can get my product for free next month. And if it's really that big of a deal, the $20 coupon was that they missed out on because they decided not to do it at the time, give them the $20 and move on with life and help them get their three customers to get them started or whatever. So I said all of that and nothing but love. But I really do think sometimes if you think that something feels a certain way to you, then really take a look at how you're saying it, because it's not intended to be an icky thing. So if it feels that way, maybe it's in the way that it's being approached in some way.
Jen, I just went through this with a brand partner's brand partner, and she started with the $20 kit, and she was like a racehorse out of the gate getting customers. She got 2 customers one customer on her first day, but then she didn't get paid on that customer because her ADO wasn't active.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my question is, so when they say, okay, I want to join with the $20 kit, I mean, after learning that and figuring out how to make this all work, because she just didn't have the extra $80 to put out for the product. Now I just lay it out right in the front. But I mean, she's, you get the 120, so now she's qualified to get paid, but she lost commissions on 2 customers. So that's my quandary, is like when I'm talking about the $20 kit, and I've also had someone say, okay, is that it? It's only $20. So, well, no, it's not.
Well, but to enroll in the business, it is. So that is true. Now, do they want to be paid? Do they want to earn free product? Like, that's a different story. And so I do think, I mean, to me, and this is the whole thing that I'm trying to kind of express, is I don't just want anyone to enroll. I don't just want your social security number in the system because you decided you'd pay $20 today. I want someone who really is looking at this, and not everybody looks at it as a business, but it is one. So it's my responsibility that if I'm looking at them like they are purchasing a franchise, essentially, what do they need to know? I mean, I also don't make them read the full policies and procedures, but I definitely dang sure tell them the main points of it, because that's my responsibility. So I'm going to say, that's a big, long thing of policies and procedures. The top things that you really need to know is you can't solicit any other products directly or indirectly to other brand partners. You can't sell the products for cheaper than what the company sells, and you can't put them on third-party sites where they're not allowed. I tell everyone that when they enroll, because I don't want them coming back to me and saying, well, I decided to sell blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you can't do that. And they'll be like, well, I didn't know. Well, I mean, yeah, they should have known, but why wouldn't I tell them? So I don't ever feel like if me saying, if you want to be paid, you're going to have to do this, if that keeps them from signing up, then maybe they weren't supposed to sign up yet. Maybe it wasn't their time yet. And if it is, and they say, well, I want to do it anyway, then I say, well, you can enroll a bunch of customers, because they will, once they enroll a certain amount of customers and hit a certain amount of PQV, they will be qualified to be paid. Yeah. So it's just, that is on them though. That's not on you. You don't have to feel bad about that. You tell them what their options are. Whatever option they choose is what they chose. Now, the problem comes is when nobody told them, which is what I used to find with people with the $50 kit. No one would tell them that you had to achieve 500 in your first 30 days to earn a Neora Gives Back. No one told them that. Well, if you just told them, either they know that and then they'll work towards that as a goal, or maybe they would have looked at the other purchase. So I do think it falls, and if it's a new brand partner, sometimes things happen, right? Mistakes happen, but that's where I feel like me as an upline, sometimes maybe I have to bite the bullet and say, well, here, I'll refund you XYZ to make this easier, because I'm sorry it wasn't explained fully to you. I'll try to make it right. I'm not going to give someone hundreds and hundreds of dollars, but you know what I'm saying? Sometimes I think you can find solutions. That's the thing. You're always looking for solutions, but to avoid the problem altogether is to just teach people to be honest and upfront. And if somebody's not interested because of what you told them, then either now's not the right time and maybe they need more information, or this isn't really for them anyway. And now you just found out beforehand. So for her, maybe what you all would have decided, who knows? Maybe you would have decided, we'll reimburse you this thing, and then when you get paid, pay us back. You know, if you really loved that person and wanted them to get started. If it's a total stranger, no, I'm sorry. Either you get started the way you want, or, you know, whatever. But I think it more comes to realizing that someone is starting a business, and it's our responsibility to tell them key things of what that means so that we're looking out for their best benefit.
That's perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm sorry that happened to her, but it happens. But very rarely, really, if you look at it.
Well, that was our fault because we didn't explain those points right up front. So
never do that again.
You're right.
So out of every mistake, you can find a silver lining, right? The silver lining is, I guarantee that'll never happen to anyone else on your team.
Yes. And she's a runner. So she's running for the 500 to get her ADO before the 30th. So it worked out, but you're right.
Yeah, right. I'm just telling you what I think.
Got it. Did that answer for you, Jen?
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Sherry Glassford has a question. How do you cold prospect from your contacts on Instagram and Facebook? What do you say to not sound spammy or salesy to open the conversation?
Well, so to me, there's not some overall blanket thing. It's based on why I'm starting that conversation. So did they like something of mine? Did they comment? Like, what is it? And that's what I use to start the conversation. So again, I think you're finding the underlying theme. I can't say things I don't mean. I don't have it in me. I'd rather just not say it. So to me, it has to be something that's authentic. So if they commented on a post of whatever, let's say they commented on a firm post, then I'm going to maybe reach out and say, hey, you know, thanks so much for commenting on my post. It, you know, it indirectly supports my business. You know, I noticed that you commented on our affirming product. I wanted to share some more before and after pictures with you, if that's okay. Whatever. And then maybe we share some before and afters. I typically, my go-to first is before and afters. It's not that I won't send a product video, but statistically, people don't necessarily watch videos unless they're very interested. And if they do, they don't like to watch anything over 2 minutes. So you got to get it in fast. So for me, I'm trying to hook their attention more, basically create more of the story before I give any of the information, right? So the story is the photos. That's the story. So maybe I'll send some of those out, or maybe I would just say, you know, hey, thanks so much for supporting indirectly supporting my business by making a comment on one of my posts, because not everybody realizes that supports your business, right? And then say, I noticed that you commented on my firm post. I wanted to share some more before and after pictures with you because I love this, and tell them why you like the product. If they commented on something to do with your children that has nothing to do with your business, then maybe, hey, you know, I noticed that you liked my post, and we don't know each other. I'd love to introduce myself. I'm Jennifer. You know, I see your name so-and-so. Where do you live? What do you do? And start a conversation that way. So it just kind of depends on where it started with them versus what I would actually say back. So I hope that helps.
Let's see, there are quite a few questions about Zoom. Some are technical, such as how do you share your screen? How do you put together a Zoom layout so it's ready to go? How do you share before and after pictures on the Zoom?
Okay, so number one on a Zoom, so to share a screen, you have to have an account. So you would set up your own Zoom account, which you can get a free one. And when you do that, it's 45 minutes, okay, if you do a free one. A suggestion that I had for some people, now that a lot of people are doing it, is maybe several of you go in. It's not very expensive at all. It's like, I don't know, what is it, $10 a month or something? I don't know, but they're, you know, the cheapest account, maybe it's something that 5 of you split. I don't know. So there's, you know, there's some ways around it if you really wanted to try to cut the cost of it initially, but a free account is free and it's 45 minutes. And when you do that, when you start a meeting, at the bottom of the screen, it says share. And when you click share, anything that you have open on your computer will pop up. So for me, I I've always been better at PowerPoints simply because I was a teacher. I taught nursing school. So originally, the very first way I ever did anything was I put before and after pictures in a PowerPoint, because to me, that makes more sense. For some of you, it may make more sense to pull from an album and go through them. It's whatever. For me, I don't want to get into my iCloud. I don't even know what to do with that. So, but you can create an album that's in your iCloud that you pull from your computer and do it, or you can create it in your photos on your computer. For me, it was easiest to just do a PowerPoint. And then what happens is when I share the screen, I already have the PowerPoint pulled up first. It's loaded on the computer. And so when I share the screen, I'll see it in one of the boxes, the PowerPoint. I click on it and then it pulls up the PowerPoint. And then you'll see it because it says sharing, or it'll say your sharing has been paused. And then I realize I screwed up something. I don't know what. I'll stop sharing, start over. I am the person who turns it off and turns it back on. That's how I solve things. So then I share that, and then I have it organized by pictures. I'm happy to share that in the group also. I shared it in a lot of places. And then I switch it out every month. So like this month, because the promos changed, my slides changed a little bit. And then I have one for Canada, and I have one for UK because they're different. Their prices are different, and their products are different. So anyways, that's kind of what I use. Did that answer all those questions?
Yeah, the last one regarding Zoom is, how do you get people's contact information when having Zoom parties?
Tell me.
I think what she's asking, how do you get contact information from the guests on your Zoom party? I'm not exactly clear on your, okay, she said yes.
Well, why would I need the person who invited them would have their contact information? Is that what you mean?
That's what
I
thinking.
think, Lori, do you want to unmute yourself and
Sure. Sorry about that.
okay.
So anyways, what I'm trying to get at is, say you have somebody else that is your host. So a friend of yours is having the Zoom party for you, and they have their friends. How do you get their contact information? I mean, other than sitting down with your friend going, okay, well, I know this person from Facebook and I know this person from there. Is there a way of getting maybe an email address or a phone number or something like that so that you can contact them directly without going through that friend?
You know what? I don't know. I've only done the customer parties in person. So I would think that maybe, let me think about this. Maybe you could do a drawing, right? So you know how you do drawings in Facebook parties, or you can do drawings in Zoom parties if you want. Maybe say, if you throw your email or phone number in the chat, and they can do it privately to you. It doesn't have to be shared with the whole group. You'll get 5 extra entries into the drawing or something. Like you could do something creative like that. And then worst case scenario, if it's your friend and you know them, I would be like, hey, so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so are on there. And my goal at the end is I know what those people were interested in. That is what I feel like my role is as the expert. Unless people literally won't speak, which does happen. I'm not going to say that everybody speaks. They don't. But if I know that about them, then I can say to my friend, hey, your friend so-and-so was really interested in this, and so-and-so was interested in this. I didn't get their contact information. Would you be comfortable either giving me theirs or sharing mine with them? And then that's, I feel like, as good as you could get from that point.
Okay.
Probably come up with some creative something way. I was thinking like they would register their email, but I don't know where they'd register it, and I don't want to try to figure that out. So maybe just something.
What is something like Eventbrite? Would that, I don't know if that costs or not, but.
It doesn't cost. It does not cost if you make it a free thing. The difference is, or the thing in my mind is, you're making it very serious. And
that's what I don't want to do. I want to keep it light and fresh.
And it needs to be so simple. Like I send the link to Zoom. They don't even have to type in a number. You just click the link and then there it is. Because the simpler you can make it for people, the more likely they are to actually get on the event. So I feel like if you created an Eventbrite and they had to register and then you sent them the Zoom code, and then it just makes it not as fun, really.
Yeah. I completely agree. I just wasn't sure if you had a way of getting that information from people in advance.
Right.
I've never even thought about it because I've never done one this way since we started. And if I've done them with people, it's been on Facebook, so they're there, so I have a way to contact them. But maybe I don't know. That one just popped in my head. Maybe like extra entries if they share their, you know, and don't say it in a weird way. Like, I would love to follow up with you and make sure that you, you know, that we either get you the best value in what you're looking at. We make sure we have your questions answered. So if you throw your contact information in the chat, I'll give you 5 extra entries into the drawing. I can't imagine people wouldn't do it.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks, Lori.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lori. Okay, so question from Tanya from Ireland. How does your cell phone become a write-off? Great question about, you know, another perk of the business.
I'm not giving you tax advice.
Your accountant.
I'm not giving you tax advice. You should consult.
Yes.
Your business can't be conducted without your phone. So a portion, and I don't know about Ireland's taxes at all. So, but here in the United States, there are certain business expenses that you're legally allowed to claim. And for us, a cell phone is one. So is internet a portion, and that's where an accountant comes in. They can tell you the percentage that you can write off or the percentage of your internet or whatever. So, but yeah, I'm sticking to consult your tax person, please. I'm not taking on that legal thing.
Yeah, I hear you. I think that's perfect.
Great one. And you're getting so much love here in the chat, Jen. Zomori said, thanks so much for your beautiful heart. You're a true servant leader, and your open, honest answers have inspired us all. Love you. Jennifer said what Zoe said, XOXOXO. And we are nearing the finish line. Only have a couple of minutes left, so I'm really sorry if we couldn't get to all the questions. I'm pretty sure we covered all of them in one way or another. So I'm going to turn it over to CJ to
well, yeah,
final words.
Yeah, well, my final words was absolutely, this was outstanding. Thank you so much for doing this. I have one question, one last question for you.
Sorry, reach the limit, sir.
So, because we want to be respectful of your time, but I'm kind of debating between these two, but I'm going to ask this. If you had to pick one thing, you know, to be, you know, your biggest attribute or the biggest reason for your success with Neora, what would you say that is?
Well, I think it's two things. I can't say one. Two things would be literally consistency and mindset. And so what I mean by that is, kind of like how, I think I already forgot who said it, but so I don't want to say the wrong name, but how it was like, oh, I do it for 5 days hardcore and then I don't for 5 days. That is literally like you're restarting every single time. It is. I've been there. I've done it only once ever, but, and it was very hard. It almost felt like I was restarting my whole business again. It's so much easier. And I mean, it's the slight edge. It's all the things you hear. So I don't mean to sound cliche, but it really is. It's taking at least 10 minutes to do 2 contacts or taking at least 10 minutes to build 2 relationships. That will help you so much more in the long run, because I can promise you, I didn't do anything special. I didn't do anything special, and I didn't do so much more than everyone else, or I didn't do any of those things. And so believe me, I have really, really, really done some major self-inflection to figure out what is it. Because sometimes it's frustrating to me, right? I'm like, I'm not special. Why isn't everyone having this? And so that's where I think the second point comes in, is true belief in yourself and in what you're doing. And so if you are thinking I can't or I won't, is whatever as it sounds, you can and you won't. I can guarantee it. If you are constantly, and this is like going on multiple levels, but it's just true. If you're constantly telling yourself you're fat, but you do all the dieting and exercise, guess what? You won't lose the weight. I am that person, because you are creating it. What you do with your intention is so powerful. Your intention literally pulls energy and takes it in the direction that you use to create things. And so I've actually had and I'm getting vulnerable here, but I had a conversation with a woman who I talk to often, who really helps me. She's definitely reconnected, like a strength in my connection to God and to the bigger picture of the world and to human nature and compassion and energy and its power and all those things. And I used to feel insanely guilty about my success. I felt very guilty about it. I didn't understand why I had it and other people didn't. And it was very hard for me because I want it so desperately for everyone else that it was hard for me to enjoy. It was hard for me to ever want more, because I'm like, but so many people deserve it, you know? And basically what she explained to me, which, and I'm not, I definitely never preach my beliefs. So you can interchange the word with anything that you believe. But she was like, listen, it's out there for everyone. You're not special or chosen. The energy to create what you want for your life is sitting in front of everyone. You just set the intention that you were doing it. And so when you set that intention, it pulls the energy in the right place. And then you back it with the consistent activities. You can't just wish your way into life, right? I'm not saying that energy is so magical that you say I'm going to be successful and you can sit on your butt and not be successful. I don't mean that, or be successful, but it's that you're creating that intention, which is what starts with your thoughts. And so if you are saying, I am deeming that I am having success, and it's got to be real specific and be real careful what you think outside of that, because that has just as much power as the good stuff. It really does. It has just as much power as the good stuff. And so you can't say, I'm going to have success and I'm going to do this. And then the same thought process, you're thinking, I can't. I won't. I'm not worthy. I'll never be like that person. I won't have this. That is actually creating something for you as well. And so your mindset really being clear on what your intention is, but also not faltering into your old ways of thinking. And if you are, then personal development is number one on your list of things to do every day. I mean, it should be important to everyone, but as you continue to grow and develop, it's important in different phases, in my opinion. It meets you where you are and helps you think. So like for me, if I read something like Girl Wash Your Face today, it's like nothing to me. I've lived it, breathed it, whatever. It's so basic to me. But if you've never done personal development, it's very eye-opening because you have to start somewhere. Like I started somewhere in learning about it, right? And the power of all of that. And so I think that your mindset, I think that people who do the consistent behaviors, they do their 2 a day every day. They do their 2 follow-ups every day. Follow-ups are huge. And that consistency, it's not just the reaching out. The following up is 10 times more important. Otherwise, just don't reach out. You're wasting your time, right? If you're not going to have some form of system for following up with people. But that consistency can happen every single day. You can do the right things. You can show up to the events. You can do all the things. But if you aren't thinking that you're going to be successful, you won't be. And you'll start and you'll blame the company. You'll blame the system. You'll blame your sponsor. Not maybe, but a lot of people do. When really it's like, but what were you thinking? And it's the same concept as, and I shifted this also whenever I started really working on myself and my mindset. How many of you have ever said you have a weak leg? Well, guess what you're perpetuating? You are deeming that as fact. This is my weak leg, or this person won't do anything. Well, thank you for giving that more power. Now they won't. You're right. Right? So that's where I'm talking about you live in the potential. Is it a really different way of being, and will you be way different than 99% of the world when you start thinking like that? For sure. You will. When you are constantly looking at the bigger picture and knowing that one thing really doesn't hold that much significance unless you give it that power, and you're really looking at the bigger picture of staying true to who you are, number one, to what your intention is for what you're trying to create, and then doing that daily behavior behind it, it does fall into place. And weird stuff happens where you'll be like, oh, we randomly got some refund check. And you're like, this is just too weird. And it's still weird to me. It is so weird to me, but it is scientific, number one, if you want to be sciencey, but then there's also much deeper things that you can really find that fall behind energy. So if you think of it as your intentions it's like this if you think of it just like there's strings of energy everywhere, okay? That's not what it is, but just think of it that way. There's strings of energy everywhere. You can pull and fit and tie them together in the prettiest bow that you want to make. But you are fully responsible for doing that. And if you decide that you're going to pull them over here and rip them and shred them apart and they become nothing, that starts with your intention. So there's true power in what your intention is. And it's why we say things like define your why. It's not because we want to be all weird and make you cry. It's because we want you to really be clear on what your intention is, because that has tremendous power in the path that you will be led toward. That you do it innately, it's subconsciously, you don't realize it, but you're drawn to a path of something much bigger than us based on the energy pathways and intentions that you've set with that intention. So mindset is big. And not only that, but as you start to lead a team, it is key in being a true leader. I can tell you about tons of leaders, I would never call them out, tons of leaders whose mindset is trash. And they don't believe in themselves. They talk down about themselves. They talk down about other people. They're negative. When something happens, they immediately go into the victim mode. That's not leadership, you guys. It's really not. It doesn't matter what your title is. Your leadership falls into, how can I move? Don't always acknowledge someone's feelings. That's not what I'm saying. Whatever your feeling is in that moment is valid to you. And I know that. And so I'm never going to be like, well, you shouldn't be mad. It's like, I understand that you're upset, but let's work on what we can do to fix it, right? That's a leader. A leader is not, well, I know I can't believe it either, blah, 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 perpetuating that. So you're always trying to shift people back into that ultimate potential that they have, assuming that they create a certain intention and put the right activities behind it. So that was a really long way of saying it, but truly it's consistency and reaching out and following up. I did that every day of my life, even if it was 5 minutes, every day. Even if it was just two people that I reached out to and 2 people that I followed up with. That was every day of my life that I did that. And some days it was truly 5 minutes that I had to do it. And then the mindset piece, I think, is what takes you to the next level every time.
Oh,
I love it.
I hope you feel all this love that's coming your way. There is more in the comments from Eric Highfield.
Sorry, I'll click on it and read it for you. Sorry.
Okay.
Like I'm a child this whole time. I'm sorry.
Here's a huge inspiration from Jill Chisholm. Jen Givens here, the most selfless love. Thank you. This was awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for a beautiful soul, and your tips are incredible. Ronnie Cummings, thank you. That was awesome. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, guys. I'm so sorry that I wasn't there in person. It's going to happen. Dang.
Oh, no worries. Hey, no worries. Thank you so much. And I want to reiterate what I said early in the beginning. I truly believe that great companies they're not led by corporate. They're led by the people in the field. The people in the field who do things in a loving, caring, and sharing way, who are willing to take their time to listen to people, and who are willing to share selflessly. And I think you guys are just, quite honestly, the epitome of that. And just remember, from me to you, I will never, ever forget that conversation.
I've never forgotten it either.
in Richmond, Virginia, it meant the world to us. So thank you again so much for sharing. We love you guys. And
for being here.
This is recorded.
This is recorded. So make sure we take this out again.
Ready? Everybody smile.
What?
Are you taking screenshots?
Yeah.
You want me to?
See you.
Okay.
Okay, I got to switch screens though. There's 2 more screens. Hold please. Smile. Everybody's like, you're a weirdo. Oh, this is a bunch of faces. Who cares? The 3rd screen was all pictures. Anyway. Okay. Well, thanks guys for showing up. It would have been really weird if I talked to myself.
Thank you, Jen.
You
Thanks
guys.
a lot.
Bye.
Hey, okay.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Thank you.
All right, guys.